You get the phone call, you see your name come across the screen. What is that feeling like? I mean, obviously the goal is to play professional soccer, probably professional sports. What is that like?
To be honest with you, the whole day. So the draft actually started around 2 p.m. And so we just finished practice, and I got home, just whacked it on, and just from the conversations I'd had, I wasn't like, being unrealistic with myself. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be a first round pick, so I was just watching it come in and just very relaxed. I was actually, to be honest with you, I was on Xbox with my friends back home, and they were all watching it, and like they're like saying things like, Jamil, like, Jam, when are you getting picked? When are you getting picked? Well, I'm like, lad, just relax. Like, there's a long way to go. So yeah, I mean, and then round two went by, and I was kind of like getting, palms were sweating at that point. Um, and so obviously, of Milo and Colin, my teammates, they were here, they were watching it in the living room. And I said to both of them, I was like, this is no disrespect, guys, but I can't sit here and watch this with you two right now. Like, I was in my room, complete silence, and at that point they weren't streaming the second and third rounds. So the names were just coming up on the MLS website of who they were picking, and they were racking names off. Teams started to pass on picks at that point. So I'm thinking, wow, like, this ain't happening. And then, yeah, I mean, I think it was like the 77th pick. I just see my name pop up next to Sporting KC, and I'm going to be as honest as I can be. I sat here in the chair I'm actually sat in right now, and like just sunk to my knees completely, like just slumped down. And at that point, I hear Milo screaming in the living room, and that kind of gave me like that first burst of energy. Like, I ran out, and I'm not gonna lie, as soon as I seen Milo and Colin's faces, I just broke down in tears. It's one of them, like, it was like an out of body experience. Like, I can't really tell you what I did or what I said for the next 10 minutes, but it's so far one of the best moments of my life. And immediately, call my mum and dad. And it was funny, so my dad was following it on Twitter, and they were about 5 minutes behind. So I rang my dad, because with the time difference, I thought my mum would be asleep. I knew my dad was awake. So I called my dad, and he's like, I answered the phone, and he goes, yeah, it doesn't look like it's happening, does it? So I'm on the phone with him, yeah, and I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's just happened? And he was like, what do you mean? Like, whatever. And he was like in complete disbelief. And he says to me now, it's like, listen, like, Jamil, I'm so happy, but like, you did ruin it for me. I was waiting to see it come through. So that was great. And then my mum, he got my mum out of bed, spoke to her, and it was much the same, like, just a lot of emotions. But certainly, in terms of my career so far, by a country mile, the best day of my life.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, it's the culmination. You put in. I know you personally. You put in so much hard work to your craft, and it's the culmination of all that hard work. Obviously there's still work to do, but that moment in time to hear that, yeah, I could only imagine. What do you think? And I know that when you talk to guys like yourself, guys like Milo, guys like Coach Grassi, the one thing you guys always say is you sort of put program ahead of yourself, and you look at it from the long-term implications. What do you think it says for this Marshall soccer program that now in back-to-back years it has put Paolo in the draft and it's put you in the league as well? What do you think that says?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I think it speaks volumes to, and I give credit to every member of staff, especially Chris. I think the biggest thing that's happened in my time is the mentality change. I'd have to look it up specifically, but I think when I committed to Marshall, it was Chris's first season as well. And I think I came in and we were ranked like 198th in the nation. So the biggest thing for us was shifting that mentality of being a small school in this sport to realizing that we really have the talent to be a powerhouse. And I remember the morning after the draft, it was a Friday morning, and we were playing just a in the squad scrimmage. And like the team, like they congratulated him, whatever, it was amazing. And I remember what I said to the guys then. I said a few words, and the biggest thing that I'd said to the boys was my success personally, and that amazing feeling that I have of being picked in the draft doesn't happen without every single one of the boys. It doesn't happen without Chris. It doesn't happen without Petzer and Josh, and Kerry and all the staff that have come before. Alex Fadovich, I have to give a huge shout out to him. He's done a lot for the program. Connor Branson, who was my assistant coach and actually brought me to Marshall. I was ready to go to other places. And I apologize if there's any names that I've missed off that list, but in terms of the program, it like you said, it speaks volumes to us and how close we are as a group, and how happy the lads were in the 2020 draft when Paolo got taken. That was a huge hurdle that the program had overcome. To get a guy picked off the back of the season we had, and then like myself, it's just the next hurdle. And I have full belief in every single one of these guys that all 11 of the starting team should be drafted, whether it be next year or whether it be the year after. These guys, everyone on this team has got bright futures.
So I want to circle back to not necessarily the draft, but the MLS as a whole. And I know you and I had just briefly discussed this before we hit the record button. You were talking about, Colin, Milo, you guys went through the combine, things like that. I know today you had the rookie symposium. For those that don't know, as far as the timeline goes of combine drafts, what does that look like for a prospective draftee?
Okay, so obviously we're in a very alien year, shall we call it? So obviously 2020 was a roller coaster. We came in August thinking that we were going to have a season, only for it to be taken away, just like every other sport in the fall bar football. And football did an amazing job in the fall, and really flew the flag for the school. And in that time, we were just practicing. We were just trying to stay as fit as we could. We had guys all over the world. As you know, we've got so many lads from South America, from across Europe. So we really had a small group, but we just had to make the most of it. And I think it was around like late September. Both myself and Milo got the call to, attend the MLS Combine this year that was hosted in Kansas City, funny enough. So we went down there in November, and it was just a series of games. There was every MLS scout went down there, GMs, you have it, like USL teams, which to people that don't know is the second division over here in the States. So first and foremost, it was amazing just to be invited, just to be included in that list of people that they wanted to even take a look at was for me personally, confidence was amazing. And then to go through the process, just on my team, there was a couple of guys that won a national championship with Georgetown last season, had the chance to play against a few of the defenders again from Washington who, knocked us out of the NCAA tournament. So, that was good to get another crack at those guys. But it was, as I said, just as an experience, it was so great. And I think it was around 50 players that got invited. And, I've made some really good friends off the back of that as well. Like, just funny enough, like meeting those guys at this point in our careers. you know, and I was just so happy to see like some of the boys that, you know, I played with at that event, you know, getting drafted themselves and feeling the same, like going on the same journey that I've been on in the last 2 or 3 months.
For you, you mentioned 2020. It was such a weird year. Obviously, if things weren't the way they are currently, we would be in person right now doing this as opposed to via Zoom. So I think that goes without saying. We don't need to rehash 2020, but
yeah, leave it.
we'll leave it in the past. It's a new year, but you know, the giant pink elephant in the room is that there was not a soccer season in the fall of 2020. It's been punted to 2021. It'll be starting here very soon. The 3rd of February, you guys will take on VCU to start the season. For you personally, do you feel like, one, not having a soccer season in 2020, and two, this accolade under your belt of being a draft pick, do those two things provide even more motivation going into what is a wacky spring season for a fall sport?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different for sure. You know, a lot of us boys like playing in the hot weather. So, you know, just playing in the winter might be a little bit rough for a few of the boys. I don't know. But one thing that I will touch on is, you know, we went out on 2019 on such a high. And, you know, a lot of people don't know this because, you know, we don't do a lot of media. However, you know, everyone was obviously buzzing that we made it all the way to the Sweet 16, but we actually felt like we massively underperformed, and we should have went further. So if anything, we feel like as a group that we've got so much more to prove. And we don't want to be the team that just does it once. You know, we want to kick on from this now. There's another championship to win. And ultimately, you know, looking at the group that we've got now, I would be hesitant to say we are at the same level, if not better than we were in 2019, because we've kept that same core group of players together. And I can honestly say, like, I've never been more excited to just throw on a Marshall jersey and get that first game out of the way. And you know, obviously with the announcement that there will be, you know, fans allowed into the stadium, like I can't wait for them just to, you know, to see them again and just to perform in front of them and ultimately build off of what was such a great 2019 season and kick on and yeah, achieve way more, you know, things for this program.
Well, and I'm glad you touched on that with the fans, because in 2019, you and I both know, this community was buzzing for soccer. I mean, this had become, at the height of your all's run to the NCAA tournament, this had arguably become a soccer town. I mean, people were thrilled. There were almost 3,000 people in the stands at Veterans Memorial Complex. I mean, it was something. I've been here. This is my 4th year. I haven't seen anything like this, and so it's so great to see. And so that kind of plays into my next question for you. And you mentioned it earlier when you got here, 198th, you know, ranking. There was not a soccer history, a successful soccer history in Marshall. You, Milo, all you guys, you have laid the groundwork for what could be a soccer powerhouse at the NCAA level. For you, how rewarding and fulfilling is that to be able to leave that legacy of not just we were the first, but it's going to continue after I leave?
When I came to Marshall, that's all I wanted to do. That was the only thing that was on my mind. You know, I ultimately, you know, whatever I accomplished and achieved before I came out here to West Virginia, I had to leave all that behind me and had to set new goals and ambitions. And ultimately, that for me comes from the coach. And I still remember the first conversation I had with him back in 2017, where he said, listen, in 4 years, we're going to be fighting for a national championship. And, you know, many people I feel that have come and gone in that time would have gulped at that and maybe laughed at it. And certainly us as a group, when people ask us what our ambitions are, and we tell people that, you know, we've been laughed at, but they ain't laughing anymore. So, you know, I just hope that, you know, we have changed the mentality of this program going forward, and I'm just happy that I was a part of that. I'm happy that I've been part of the so far 3 to 4 year process under, you know, Coach Grassi. And, you know, you mentioned about laying foundations. You know, I alluded to it before. We've got some amazing players, amazing young players here. Some of the best I've ever played with in my entire life. And this program is going to go from strength to strength even after I'm gone. You know, and for the short amount of time I've got left at this, you know, being involved with this program, you know, I'm going to give 100% as I always have done. And, you know, I can at least hope that I've left enough of an impression on some of those younger guys to follow in those footsteps and make as much of a college career first and foremost as they can do, and then go on to be great pros.